welcome back or welcome to Nat Cat's Bookish Cafe. I am here to start week 2's vlog. I am trying to vlog every week for the month of April because of the Orilium Readathon that is occurring this month. As always, I will go ahead and link that information down below so you can go ahead and check out Booklovers' channel and all her announcement videos for this Readathon. Last week was pretty successful. Go ahead and check it out if you would like to. I did complete 4 of my 10 classes. I did also DNF a book that I was using for one of the classes, so I'll see if I can switch that out with something else later this month. But I thought I'd go ahead and check in and just let you know what I'm currently working on. All right, hopefully you can't hear my mom vacuuming because right now she's vacuuming the front of the house, so I'm going to try and talk about the stuff as quickly as possible before she starts making her way back here and things get louder. But these are the 3 books that I started last week, and I'm kind of just gradually making my way through. We have a poetry collection, just a bunch of different poems that are about cats. Obviously, this does not have to do with the Orilium. This is merely a punishment prompt for my TBR game to read a poetry book. I'm only about 10 pages into this, but there's only 50 pages in here, so I could just, even if I only read like 10 poems a night, I'll get it done in like 5 days. So that's just something I'm gradually making progress on. I also have my nonfiction read, which I am currently on chapter 6, about 63 pages in. This little blue tab is where I'm hoping to be by the end of the month. That's the halfway point. With nonfiction books, I usually give myself 2 months to read it, so I do want to be at that 50% mark by the end of this month. I've been doing pretty good with my progress. I've kind of taken on the habit of reading a chapter or 2 in between my other physical books, and that's been working out well. I am enjoying this read so far. Very interesting, educational, and the writing is pretty nice as well. This book is for Orilium. This was it Animal Studies, I believe? Yes. So I had to flip a coin, heads or tails, and I got heads, which means I had to read a nonfiction book. Last one I'm working on right now is The Toughest Indian in the World. This is a short story collection, so once again, I'm just breaking it up a little rather than reading it in one sitting. I've read maybe, how many have I read so far? They're not numbered. 1, 2, 3, 4. I've read 4 so far. I have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, so I have about 5 more to go. So far I've really been enjoying this, mostly because I'm actually a really big fan of this author's writing. It's just really working for me. So I think I gave the first 2 4 stars, and then I gave one 3 stars, and then I'm pretty sure I gave the other one 3.5 stars. I'll have to double check. But yeah, having a good time with this. This is for the class of Inscription. This book comes from one of my top shelves. As for my audiobook, I am currently 92% through Beyond the Wizard by Tom Felton. This is kind of a memoir by the actor that played Draco. I'm not talking about it too much, just vaguely mentioning it because obviously Harry Potter can be a triggering topic for some people because the author is transphobic, so I try not to bring it up too much, but he is an actor that I had a crush on, so I just wanted to check it out. It's all right, you know. I enjoy his British accent. When it comes to actors, I have to admit I'm usually not overly interested in their personal lives, even if I do like them as an actor. So it's a fun short read, and that's about all I really have to say on it. I have only about 30 minutes left, and I'm about to do some chores after this, so there is a very high probability that I go ahead and finish that today. As far as physical books, or the physical book that I will be starting next, I'm going to be reading The Vanishing Bird by Simone Jimenez. I just want to get my library books out of the way so I can go ahead and return them after I do my mid-month wrap-up. This is a sci-fi story, and what class is this for? Spells and Incantation. Reading a book between 389 and 415 pages. I think this was at like 391 or something along those lines. I don't know too much about the story. It seems to have kind of like found family aspects, space travel, kind of trying to protect a young boy with a traumatic past from people that are trying to hunt him down. I don't know if this boy has some sort of special abilities, but let me just read the synopsis real quick. We have Nia Imana is a woman out of place and outside of time. Decades of travel through the stars are condensed into mere months for her, though the years continue to march steadily onward for everyone she has ever known. Her friends and lovers have aged past her. All she has left is work. Alone and adrift, she lives only for the next paycheck until the day she meets a mysterious boy fallen from the sky, a boy broken by his past. The scarred child does not speak, his only form of communication, the beautiful and haunting music he plays on an old wooden flute. Captured by his songs and their strange, immediate connection, Nia decides to take the boy in. And over years of starlit travel, these two outsiders discover in each other the things they lack. For him, a home, a place of love and safety. For her, an anchor to the world outside herself. For both of them, a family. But Nia is not the only one who wants the boy. The past hungers for him, and when it catches up, it threatens to tear this makeshift family apart. So sounds like we have some sort of time travel stuff going on. I'm very interested. I believe that this book is also kind of queer coded. So I'll let you know what I think. We'll see how much reading I get done today. I do want to finish editing last week's vlog because I haven't finished that quite yet. And tomorrow we will be celebrating my mom's birthday because my sister is able to come down to visit. So I don't know how much reading I'll be getting done over this weekend, but as always, I will check in with you once I have made progress. It is Saturday evening and I have finally finished the first chapter of Vanished Birds. It was 36 pages, so that is quite a long chapter. I'll be interested to see if all the other chapters are that long, because I'm definitely not a fan of long chapters. But I would say that this first chapter felt a lot like a prologue to the story. In this first chapter, we are following a man called, I don't know how to pronounce his name, Kada. I believe his name is Kada. And he lives on a planet where they harvest some sort of seeds. and every 15 years, Naya, her crew shows up and they collect these seeds and bring them elsewhere. So Naya is one of our main characters, and because she travels through time, she feels, I think she said it was only like 8 months or so passed for her, but it's 15 years on his planet. So we're following his point of view as he sees her arrive for the first time when he's 9, and then we kind of follow his life as he kind of waits for her, because he meets her on that first night and she hands him a flute, and he kind of falls in love with her in a way, and she and him form kind of a relationship, as much as you can form a relationship with someone that you only see one night every 15 years. But towards the end of this chapter, the boy that is mentioned in the synopsis, the boy who falls from the sky, ends up falling from the sky onto this guy's planet. And he takes the boy in and cares for him and teaches him how to use the flute, which at this point is the boy's only form of communication, and pretty much just holds on to the boy until Naya shows up again and now has passed the boy on to Naya. And I'm assuming that the story will go ahead and move forward from that. So this first chapter was pretty much just kind of explaining how the boy ended up in Naya's possession. So I'm enjoying it. I would say that the first chapter definitely dragged a little bit. One, because it didn't really have anything to do with the synopsis or the characters that, based off the synopsis, I was expecting to follow. So it was just like a little bit of me being like, yeah, okay, fine, whatever, let's get to the actual story. And as I mentioned, the chapter was really long, and when chapters are really long, for some reason, it just feels like things drag. But I am definitely intrigued. The end of this chapter, once the boy arrived, definitely has piqued my interest, and now that Naya and the boy are together, I'm interested to see where we go from there. The writing is decent. It's nothing that's overly capturing my attention, but it's also not off-putting or anything like that. So I will go ahead and continue to make progress, and we'll check in with you guys maybe tomorrow. I will be kind of busy tomorrow, so we'll see. I probably won't have much time for reading, so I doubt that I'll have anything to check in about. I do want to mention that I did finish my audiobook today. I don't rate them or anything, so I don't really have anything to say on it. I will say that I was a bit disappointed that the author, Tom Felton, didn't address the issue that is revolving around the author. Now, I will say that I understand that to a certain degree, he may have been warned away from doing such a thing, especially since he gained such fame from the movie that were based off of her books. And like, I understand why he wouldn't be able to like bash her and be like, she's not a good person. But he in turn did praise her on a few occasions, which I was kind of like, you don't have to say like mean things about her, but you also don't need to be saying like good things about her. So that was a little bit disappointing as someone who definitely supports the trans community. I was hoping that he would say something, but you know, it is what it is. And it was a book that I read and don't have overly strong feelings for. Monday afternoon. I'm on my first break from work and just wanted to check in about the Vanishing Birds. This morning I got to page 100, but it was like 3 minutes before I had to log into work, so wasn't able to do an update then. But I have read the first 3 chapters. So yeah, these chapters are really long. The fact that I'm only read 3 chapters and 100 pages in. But luckily these last 2 chapters I've enjoyed a lot more than the first one. The first chapter I was a little iffy about. It didn't really pull me in. In the second chapter, we do actually follow Nia, our main character, and the boy on their journey to the station where they're planning at this point to drop the young boy off. I really enjoyed watching their interactions, mostly because I really have connected to the young boy despite him not talking or anything. It's just the way that he's described in the book is just someone you really want to root for and someone you want to protect. Nia, on the other hand, I haven't fully warmed up to. She definitely has a bit of a selfish personality, but she seems to have kind of a past that she's running from, and I'm kind of holding off judgment on her until I know more about her past and how that kind of affects her behavior. I have to admit at this point, I don't really know how old she is. I'm assuming she's like in her late 20s, early 30s maybe. But yeah, I don't know how old she is, how mature she should be acting at this point. But I do enjoy her and the boys' interactions. So that's what chapter 2 discussed. And then chapter 3 talked a little bit about, oh, what was her name? Fumiko, and she is actually the creator of the space stations that our main characters are heading towards at this point. So it seems like this book, I don't know if it's going to keep bouncing back and forth between our main characters and other characters' backstories. Like I said, the first chapter followed Keita. Yeah, Keita. And he was the one that gave or united Nia and this young boy. And now we are following, or we followed Fumiko throughout her life as she kind of becomes well known for her intelligence, and eventually the creation of these mass stations that allowed humans to escape planet Earth. So I really enjoyed her chapter as well. I thought it was really interesting learning about this young woman who had not a very good relationship with her mother. She was very isolated because her mother was part of this group that was like anti-vanity or something at this point in life. Humans, I guess, could genetically make it that your child always turns out relatively attractive, and she was against that, so she purposely had a very unattractive child. So our character here is dealing with people thinking her very ugly, but at the same time having a high respect for her intelligence. She is offered a position to help build these stations, but it's a position that would require her to leave everything behind and have no communication with her family and friends for possibly years, which when she first agreed to it was something she was completely fine with, because she didn't have any friends and had a bad relationship with her mother. However, during the month where she's preparing to leave for this trip, she actually falls in love with another woman. And then we just kind of follow their relationship a little bit and their eventual separation. I enjoyed the part where the two of them were separated because her lover was able to send her letters, and her lover had gone to Louisiana, specifically. They initially were from Japan, and were working on solar fields because the planet was dying at this point. The the world was putting a lot of effort into sustainability, but we had obviously gone too far. And so this sustainability just was swimming upriver and not making much progress. And so we kind of got her point of view on how futile everything was, and how the fact that humans, despite needing to come together to try to save themselves, are still turning against each other, and greed is still causing a lot of damage within these communities. So I really enjoyed that part of the story. So I'm interested to see where we go from here. I'm assuming that we're going to be back with Nia and the young boy in this next chapter, but it'll be interesting to see if we continue to kind of bounce back and forth between Nia and the boy and people that are in some way responsible for their coming together, because Fumiyaka is responsible for the station. So Nia would have never been flying around space and picking up this young boy if it had not been for her. So definitely glad that this story is picking up and has grabbed my attention. Even the writing in the second and third chapter drew my attention a lot more. So I will continue to update you maybe when I get to the 50% mark, because I think right now I'm about a quarter of the way through. As far as my audiobook, I actually did this morning start A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. I've listened to the first hour of that, and so far I'm definitely intrigued. It looks like we'll have an interesting cast of characters kind of in an isolated setting. I can definitely see how this book kind of focuses on racism to a degree, just based off the different species that are working on this ship. As far as a synopsis for this book goes, it seems that we have a main character who is trying to escape some sort of event that occurred back on her home planet of Mars, where she was possibly falsely accused of something, and she is now on her own and trying to make a living, and has paid a lot of money to kind of wipe her identity and become someone else. And she is now gone to work on a ship that kind of punches black holes, wormholes. I think wormholes. I'm assuming they're not punching black holes. And she's just supposed to be kind of dealing with like their correspondence and making sure that everyone's properly vaccinated and that all their documents are in order and all that jazz. And so she's just arrived on that ship. So I don't know what else happens in the story. I have to be honest, I haven't read the synopsis. I'm just reading it because everyone loves Becky Chambers, and I did really enjoy her The Monk and the Robot, the Tea Monk and the Robot series, whatever it's called. But yeah, just based off of the first hour that I've listened to, I'm definitely excited to get more into that. And that is all I have to say for now. Alright guys, so it is still Monday and I just finished part 1 of this book. I'm on page 152. So I'm approaching the 50% mark. I think the 50% mark is in about 30 to 40 pages, but I figured since I finished part 1, it would be a good time to check in. At this point, we have been kind of following our characters in sort of a mishmashed way. They have finally gotten to the station called Pelican, and we've just kind of been following them as they are going about their free time in an individual way. And then our main character Nia has been invited to a very selective party where she then comes in contact with Fumiko, the scientist that we have previously met. It seems that this scientist has been going like in and out of cold sleep, kind of cryogenic sleep, which is why she's still alive despite it being, I'm assuming, hundreds of years since she was initially born and things like that. And Fumiko is the one who is asking Nia to care for this boy and specifically to take him to what is called the Fringe. So Fumiko was employed by a company called Ombai, and they are the ones who created the main stations, and they have a lot of control over space and have a lot of alliances within space. And Fumiko wants to get this boy away from them because she does not always trust Umbai's judgment in what is best for, you know, space travel moving forward. So the Fringe is kind of an area that Ombai doesn't have any control over, which also does make it a bit of a more dangerous place in space. But she's hoping that Nia and this boy can live there for quite a few years, possibly up to 15 years, while this boy matures, because Fumiko feels that there is something special about this boy that could have a big impact on space travel. I'm definitely fully invested in the story at this point. Despite the long chapters, I do feel that the story still has really good pacing and it's really easy to get lost in the story. And so the long chapters aren't too terrible when you have no desire to put the book down. Our main character, Nia, I like her as a character, but I still feel like she's not the most likable person. I think she's pretty complex, which is always something that's good to see in a character. We did learn a little bit more about her past, which unfortunately did not go in her favor. It definitely didn't make her a more likable person. If anything, it showed an even more selfish side of her. Also, it seems that she's in her late 30s, which I feel like maturity wise is not where she's sitting, and considering her past, you would have thought that she learned from it. And to a degree, it does seem like some of the decisions she's making to try to make up for the past, but at the same time, she seems to be repeating her mistakes again. So I am definitely intrigued by her. I think she's an interesting main character, but at the same time, not the most likable person. I'm still hoping that, you know, we'll see a lot of character development with her. As far as the young boy goes, he hasn't really been present since they dropped him off at the station, so we haven't seen much more of him, but he's definitely attached to Nia, which is why she was selected for this project. And I'm looking forward to watching him grow up and to see what becomes of him. We're also being introduced to some new crew members. So we will see how that goes, because this book is supposed to have some decent found family vibes, and I'm hoping that it's not just between Nia and the boy, but between the entirety of the crew. So that's where I'm at. Still really enjoying the writing. The plot is definitely picking up. I have a feeling that once they get to this kind of fringe space area that they might come across some interesting characters and may find themselves in possibly a few struggles as well. But other than that, that's all I have to say on this for now. I did read or listen to like a tiny bit more of Becky Chambers' book, but not enough to have anything to say on it. So I will bid you good night for now. Hey guys, so it is Tuesday morning, and last night I actually decided to read another short story out of The Toughest Indian in the World by Sherman Alexie. This is one of the books that I started last week. It's just a short story collection by an Indigenous author, and I believe this was for Inscription. It was to read a book from my top shelf. And I have read a few stories out of it so far, so if you want to see my thoughts on those, of course check out week 1's vlog. This story was the longest. It was about 50 pages, and it was called The Sin Eaters, which some of us may know what that is. I knew what it was because there's another book called The Sin Eater, but somehow I didn't really connect the dots with the title and what was happening. This story, unlike the others, is a dystopian. I thought everything in here would be like contemporary, would be based in reality, which, you know, to a certain degree this probably is, but I was thoroughly shocked when I started reading this book. I was trying to like orient myself where in history we were, what exactly was going on. It was a very brutal story. There was a lot of violence in this book, and very disturbing. So I did do a little bit more research on it after I finished it, because sometimes you just come across a story and you like have to Google like what the heck was the author thinking with this. And pretty much in the story we are following a young 12-year-old boy who's living with his parents, and one day he wakes up and tells his parents that he had a dream that war is going to start. And on that day a bunch of soldiers drop from the sky onto all the reservations in America and take a lot of the indigenous people, and they take them to like these underground bunkers, and I'm not going to explain what they do with them there, but whatever they're doing, just know that it's for the benefit of white people. So I think this has like a lot of commentary about the testing and illegal testing of like drugs and medicine and whatnot on people of color. I ended up giving this story 4.5 stars just because it was so incredibly impactful. I definitely think that you should check it out. I don't know if there's a way for you to check out this story without purchasing this book, but I mean, I've been enjoying all the stories, so I definitely think that the book in its entirety is worth checking out. But I just wanted to say that I was not expecting a dystopian in here, so I was very shocked when we took that turn. And I think it's very interesting that he kind of put this book or this story in the middle of the book. It was a bit of whiplash, honestly, going into it, which made the story even more impactful. But I'm not going to say I enjoyed that, because that was a very unpleasant experience, but it was definitely really well written and really impactful, and definitely worthy of the 4.5 stars. I also just want to state real quick before I log into work that this book definitely touches on the subject that white people are and always have been willing to do whatever it takes to make their life better, with very little regard for how it can negatively impact other people around them. We also see a little bit of betrayal within the community, where you can see Indigenous people helping with this project, and kind of how self-preservation can be very detrimental to the community as a whole. So lots of different commentary within there. Just very interesting. Highly suggest the book.
Step 1, wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step 2, get some good, some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Wake up, today's gonna gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Yo, set your affirmations, aspirations. I got shit to do, the aftermath of preparation. Good food, good mood, blood in circulation. One step at a time, yeah, that's how you make it.
Hey guys, so I just wanted to check in real quick and let you know that I've officially reached the 50% mark. I'm on page 193. I don't have too much more to say on this because it's technically only been about 40 to 50 pages since I last updated you, but we have arrived at the fringe at this point. When they went on this new mission, they did expand their crew. There's some new crew members on there, so it's been interesting watching these two groups kind of come together. At the beginning, there was definitely some tension between the two groups and some mistrust as well, and they are slowly overcoming that and growing closer together. In this section of the book, we're actually reading primarily journal entries from one of the newer crew members that is there to kind of be the eyes and ears for Fumiko, and the crew knows that that's his purpose, so that he can just contact her if anything goes wrong. And we're also getting the occasional point of view from the young boy, so it is nice to be able to get some additional information about him because he's definitely an intriguing character. I have to admit at this point nothing too exciting has happened, but they really have just entered into the fringe, so you know, I have a feeling that here in the second half of the book things are definitely going to pick up. They may come across some dangerous figures, or those people from the boy's past are finally going to make an appearance, because we haven't really heard much about them. The boy has kind of mentioned a little bit about his past, so we definitely know that these people that are coming for him are incredibly cruel and dangerous. So excited to see where the story goes. I do have to say that it's kind of interesting reading this book right alongside A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. I did listen to like another 3% of that today, so not enough to really say anything about it, but they definitely have their similarities. We have two smallish crews on kind of these not top of the line spaceships that probably need a lot of repairs. We have a mismatched group of people who are friendly to a degree, but there's also a few people that are not as involved with the group. And reading this book and then going to my audiobook, Becky Chambers' book, it's just sometimes I get my wires crossed a little bit because I think these books are a little bit on the similar side to a certain degree. I mean, I would say that if you do like Becky Chambers' A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, that you should probably check out this book because it has some similar tropes in it. Now, I haven't read enough of the Becky Chambers book to be able to like fully compare them. I'm only 13% through, but just a thought that I had while reading this. But that is all I have to say for now. I'm gonna head to bed, and I will check in with you guys when I have an update. Hey guys, so it is Wednesday morning. I'm not here for a reading update because I haven't really read much since I last saw you. But I am actually here to pick my next book, or not my next book, but the book that I will be replacing These Violent Delights with, which is for my elemental class, a book with flowers on the cover. So I was watching this morning Expedition Through Pages April TBR. I will go ahead and link her channel down below. Definitely go check it out. She has a wonderful TBR game that you can take a part in, and she was talking about which book she was going to read for the viewer prompt from Amy from A Star Reads TBR, which is also great, so you should go check that out as well. And that reminded me that my viewer prompt, or my selection for the viewer prompt, was These Violent Delights, and obviously that's not gonna work anymore. So I decided to scour my shelves for all the books with flowers on the cover. The viewer prompt was Koi Pick, or Koi Cup Pick, which is pretty much a cup where Amy puts in books that she's excited to read, and then she selects from that. So I have, since I'm doing for a prompt with flowers on the cover, I have a cup with flowers on it, and I have 5 books here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 books, and I'll just go through real quick which ones those are. So the first book is Moonspun Magic by Catherine Cutler. So this is a historical romance, and so is the second one, which is A Gentle Rogue. She has some flowers on her dress. I have a few historical mass paperbacks, but I just never get around to reading them, and so I would not mind actually being able to read one of these and seeing if I am a historical romance girly, and if so, then, you know, next time I go out thrift book shopping, I can definitely pick up a few more. Speaking of thrift book shopping, these last 2 books, I got my last trip to Half Price Books, which was a few months ago, and I've been trying to get them on my TBR ever since they both have female romances present in them. The first being The Winter Duke by Clara Eliza Bartlett. You can see kind of the ice roses on there. And then the one with probably the most flowers on the cover, A Lesson in Vengeance by Victoria Lee. Last year I did read her Fever King duology and really enjoyed it. Now, unfortunately, I haven't heard the greatest things about this book, but I'm ever hopeful. The next 2 books, the flowers aren't that obvious, so just trust me on this. The first is Capturing the Devil by Carrie Maniscalco. This would allow me to finish this series. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but she does have some flowers along her bodice here. It's kind of covered by the text, and there's also some just a little bit along the lining, the detailing in her dress, but there are flowers, I swear. And with the last one, there's not technically flowers on the cover, but there are flowers on the spine. So The Hacienda by Isabel Cantos. This has a flower on the spine, so I'm counting it. I'm excited to read this book. If I get this one, I may try to get the audiobook depending on how far out the audiobook is, because I have heard really good things about it, but otherwise I'm just excited to check it out. All right guys, so me and my yucky nails, which are starting to peel off at this point, are going to just select a random one. I don't really have a preference other than maybe Capturing the Devil, but just because that'll allow me to finish a series, and that always feels good. All right, so let's go with this one. Let's see if this is the right way. I think you have to do it. All right, Moonspun Magic. All right, so it looks like we are finally getting to a historical. Now, I don't know if I'm going to read this in this vlog. Probably not, since this will finish on Friday. And I still have a little ways to go with The Vanishing Bird. So this will probably happen in a later vlog. but let's read the back to see what it says, because I don't even know what this is about. Beautiful Victorian Albemarle feared and fled the imperious desires of husband dashing Damien Carstairs, Baron Drago. That's like a really weird sentence for me. Like that doesn't mean anything to me. But there was no escaping her own desires when she was rescued on the lawless highway of Regency England by Damon's identical twin. I think I've heard someone talk about this book, because this sounds very familiar. Either that or it's a familiar trope. So through though Raphael matched Damon in strength and daring, he was gentle where Damon was violent, caring where Damon was callous. The icy terror that Damon inspired melted in the flames of passion that Raphael ignited. And in a whirlwind of adventure, intrigue, and danger that set brother against brother and good against evil, Victoria fought to find a way to make the overwhelming power and glorious fulfillment of love the winter. Victoria fought to find a way to make the overwhelming power and glorious fulfillment of love the winter. That doesn't make sense to me. Anyway, whatever. It's a romance. She was previously in an abusive relationship that she escaped, and then forms a relationship with the man's twin, which I'm assuming will in the beginning be very difficult for her, because every time she looks at his face, she'll see the face of her abuser. So I am excited to give this a try. So make sure that you stick around for whatever vlog this happens to show up in. So I am on my 3 o'clock break. It is still a Wednesday, but I wanted to check in real quick about A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. I've been listening to it quite a bit today, and I am now 37% done with it, and just wanted to give you my thoughts. I'm really enjoying listening to this. Sometimes I do get a little lost, especially when they get into like the really sci-fi heavy stuff, like when they were explaining how to make a wormhole or whatever. My brain was like, it's not happening, it's not clicking, I don't know what you're talking about. And I feel like that's okay. I'm just here having a good time. I am enjoying all the characters and how different they are, unlike in A Vanishing Birds or The Vanished Birds. I keep calling it The Vanishing Birds because of the vanishing half. It's annoying. So unlike in The Vanished Birds, all the characters that we come across in An Angry Planet, which is what I'm going to call this moving forward because I keep stumbling over this really long title. So all the characters are really diverse. Obviously, they are from different planets that are in a way similar because they can sustain life but are still relatively different, and they all kind of started evolving at different times throughout history, so they are, you know, at different places in their existence and whatnot, and that just makes it for a very interesting experience. Just walking through all of these characters and just getting like little snippets of history from their past and hearing what they think of other species and just learning about cultural norms within different species has been a lot of fun. In The Vanished Birds, it seems like everyone is relatively human, at least all the planets that we have visited so far. It's just different humans, and I don't know if it's that humans have colonized different planets or what, but it just seems a little less realistic because, I mean, if there was life on other planets, they wouldn't all look like us. So that is a bit of a bummer when it comes to The Vanished Birds. I was hoping for a bit more diversity in what we were coming across. Now, of course, would I be complaining about this if I wasn't reading a book that is somewhat similar to it, like at the exact same time? Probably. So it's very weird to be reading these two books at the same time because I find myself constantly comparing them and whatnot. But Angry Planet is going really well at this point. I am really enjoying all the characters and exploration of them. As far as the science side of it, I don't know. It's definitely more sci-fi heavy than probably anything I've really read at this point, other than maybe Blake Crouch. So I'm definitely still trying to find my footing in it, and listening to it on audiobook may make it a little bit more difficult, but I am really enjoying the narration of it. Other than that, I don't have too much to say. I am making my way relatively slowly through The Vanished Birds. I'm only on page 120, which I think is only about like 30 pages from where I last checked in with you guys. There's definitely a change in pace with this week's reading compared to last week, where I was just jumping from book to book to book and finishing a whole bunch. But that is okay. I am enjoying this read, though I do feel like it's a little bit slow, and I'm just wanting it to get to some sort of event that kind of propels the story forward. I feel like our young boy is experiencing something that is supposed to be telling us that change is on the horizon. So I am hoping that soon something dramatic happens. That's what I'm hoping for. I mean, the threat, from what we've heard of them, does seem to be pretty extreme, and I'm honestly kind of surprised that they haven't made any sort of appearance at this point yet. But I think that the author has really just been kind of focusing on building our attachment to the characters and our characters' attachments to each other, but it's just a little bit too slow paced at this point, for my opinion. I'm still enjoying the story. It's definitely not going to be like a 5-star read, but I can definitely see it being like a solid 4-star read at this point. So I'm going to keep chugging along, and I will check in with you guys probably in about 100 pages. Since that is when I will have completed part 2 of this book. Hey guys, it is a Thursday evening. I'm about to probably start getting ready for bed, but I wanted to go ahead and let you know that a little while ago I finished The Vanished Birds. I had to sit on it for about an hour or so before I could finalize my rating on it, because I was kind of going back and forth between a 3-star and a 3.5. But I do think I have to lean more towards giving this a 3-star. I would say for the majority of this book, it was a very enjoyable read. I would never say that at any point I disliked the book, but as I mentioned previously, I definitely think it had some pacing issues throughout the story, especially in the middle, and so my enjoyment of it kind of like fluctuated a lot throughout my reading experience of this. I will say the last quarter of the book was definitely the strongest, and there were some pretty interesting things going on that I quite enjoyed, which is why for a while I was thinking it was going to be a 3.5-star read. However, I have to admit I wasn't super satisfied with the ending. I thought that the first 3/4 of the book were so slow that everything that happened at the end was somewhat rushed and just left me with like a lot of questions. And honestly, I found myself really interested in kind of what would have happened after the ending. So I kind of wished that pacing wise, the middle had been shortened up a little, and that the author instead gave us some more of the story after her ending, because I just feel like that would have been very interesting to get into. But this book definitely theme-wise focuses a lot on like colonization and going into places and taking them over for their resources, and definitely kind of suffocating the cultures that are there, and just making the purpose of a location to create products for the empire that is in power. So that's definitely what we see a lot of in this book, as this Umbai, however you pronounce their name, company is expanding throughout the galaxy with very little regard for human life. And you also see their focus on production and tourism within these areas that they take over. So if you enjoy themes like that, it's definitely sprinkled out throughout the story, and I thought that that was interesting. Definitely don't want to turn people away from this book, because I think that it's a very interesting story. I definitely think that the story has a lot of potential. It's just that pacing wise, the author may have focused too heavily on aspects of the story that didn't interest me as much as other aspects of it. So that is my final thoughts on this. Definitely worth giving it a try, despite me giving it 3 stars. As I like to say, with me, 3 stars is still a decent book. So don't throw this book off your TBR just because I'm giving it 3 stars. All right, guys, as far as tomorrow goes, it's Friday. Yay! But it's also the last day of this vlog. I think it would be super awesome if I finished my audiobook, and that way I finish 1 audiobook and 1 physical book in this TBR, or in this vlog. However, I just reached the 50% mark of Angry Planet, and still have about 7 hours to go. So I'm not overly optimistic that that'll happen, but I will give it a go. And if I don't feel like listening to an audiobook, I'll jump into another short story collection by Alexi Sherman. So next time I'll talk to you will probably be tomorrow when I wrap this vlog up. Hey guys, so it is my lunch break here on Friday. I know yesterday I didn't think I would check in with you until I finished up this vlog, but I just finished A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, which is definitely a lot sooner than I thought I would, considering I wasn't even sure if I would be able to finish it today. But one of our systems that we use for the majority of our workloads actually crashed for about an hour or so, and then our phone line was very slow. So I was able to finish up those last few hours of the audiobook, and I had a wonderful time with this story. I can absolutely understand why people enjoy this series so much. I loved all the characters. I would say that Rosemary and Sissix, I think that's how you say her name, were my 2 favorite characters throughout the story. Honestly, the voice that the narrator was using when she spoke as Sissix was so calming that I was like, man, if I ever had a therapist, I would want her to sound like this, because it was just such a relaxing, enjoyable experience listening to her talk, not just because of her voice, but just because I really related to her way of thinking about certain things. So she was a character that I really latched onto. Rosemary, on the other hand, I I don't know, I just liked her. She was the new person. She was the person whose life kind of got thrown on its head, and she was just trying to find her place in the universe, and watching her, you know, succeeding in that task was just a wonderful experience. Of course, all the other characters I loved, and just the people that they met as they went from planet to planet was also really enjoyable. This, I think, is very much a character-driven story, but I do think it had enough plot for me to stay interested and to move the story forward, so I did enjoy that as well. Becky Chambers' writing I like as well. Nothing too standoutish, but I think that is just, her writing has a good flow to it, her plot has a good flow to it, so I really enjoyed the overall trajectory of the story, and I'm definitely looking forward to continuing with this series. The ending did make me tear up a couple times, one from sadness and then another time from joy, so she's really good at evoking emotion in her readers as well. All right, so those are my thoughts. I will probably check in with you later tonight to wrap this all up. I'm not sure how much more reading I'm gonna get done today. I think I'll probably focus a lot on editing this vlog because I haven't made too much progress in it, and editing vlogs always takes a while because you have like all those little tiny clips that you have to put in there. But I'll check in with you tonight to just let you know what I read in this vlog, and maybe give you a little sneak peek at what my plans are for next week's vlog. Guys, so I am here to wrap up this vlog. I didn't end up doing any more reading tonight other than getting through another 10 pages of this poetry book, but honestly, when it comes to this poetry, it's going in one ear and out the other, so I don't have really anything to say about it. I'm mostly just enjoying the cute little pictures that are in here. Let me see if I can find one. See, I'm here for the pictures, not for the poetry. But as far as this week goes, I did only end up completing one of my Orilium classes, which was the spells and incantations. Now, so this prompt is to read a book between 389 pages and 415 pages, I believe. And Goodreads said that this book was 391 pages, which is one of the reasons that I chose it. On completion of the book, it is 396 pages long. So it is technically 3 pages short of fulfilling this prompt, but since I was basing it off Goodreads because I don't own this book, I'm just going to count it. I'm assuming there's a version of this book out here that's that length, either that or they counted the acknowledgements. But I just, you know, it's not my fault that I based it off Goodreads and that it didn't turn out to be true, but you know, it's only 3 pages. We'll say that I got a B+ in this class instead of an A. But yeah, so this did fulfill my 5th prompt for the magical Orilium, so I have reached the halfway point for this readathon, which isn't too bad considering we're halfway through the month now. I ended up reading another chapter in The Toughest Indian in the World, which got me a little bit closer to finishing another one of my prompts, but I will go ahead and continue this on in next week's vlog. The goal is to finish this book next week, so hopefully I'm able to accomplish that. As far as audiobooks go, I did technically finish Beyond the Wand by Tom Felton, which I didn't talk about that much, but I also started and finished A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers, which doesn't fulfill any of my Orilium prompts, but is one of the books on my 20 books to read in 2023, as well as one of my 12 books for my vlog squad challenge. And I will go ahead and link the videos that have those two lists in them down below in case you want to check them out. Other than that, I don't really have anything to say. I'll just keep chugging along. So, you know, join me next week as I continue to make progress. I always appreciate your guys' support. And I, of course, hope to see you guys next time. Bye!